Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the dinner table. I am super excited. I'm always excited, but I'm especially excited tonight because I have my friend Sara Longoria with me for dinner tonight. Sara, hello, and welcome to the table.
Hello, hello. I'm so happy to be here with you.
The thing that I've been trying to figure out all of these years with the farm and where we're going with the farm and what the plan is, and we've talked about this stuff at the dinner table for many months and weeks. Where's Aislynn going with the farm? What is the stuff that's going to be, what's going to stick?
Yeah,
Because I started doing like farm to table dinners out here, like full blown farm to table dinners. And that just didn't feel like super comfortable. And I definitely garden and grow vegetables. But as I
sure.
told you tonight, like people don't buy
I
vegetables.
buy vegetables,
Thank you.
so I'm not people.
Well,
I'm special.
I've talked about the 1% and
We
I
that's us, the vegetable
the
buyers.
vegetable buyers were the 1%. But it's finding the niche that works the best for me. And one of the things that I have always really been drawn to is this kind of like community,
Mhm.
although commune's not exactly right, but kind
Yeah.
of a feeling of that.
Yeah.
And this idea, I think, is really going to kind of take us a little bit more down that path. It's called Hip Camp. And Hip Camp was a project idea that got brought up like in 2010, where there were some people from California that had this idea that they would create an app, kind of like Airbnb, that was specific to farms. And then those farms or people that had land could welcome people onto camp. So like tent camp, RV camp,
Yeah.
whatever,
Which is cool because you have a lot of people these days that
are
wanna do
looking.
that, that
Exactly.
have RVs, that have tiny houses, that want to go on that adventure.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's the idea is now people can come here to Freedom Harvest Farms in Taft, Texas and can stay here with us on the farm. The one main rule that they have is you have to have a bathroom. So, which I think is interesting because I think the way that some people do the bathroom is like composting toilets. So it's
Oh,
or
yeah.
like a porta potty. So it doesn't
Yeah.
even have to be like we have a really nice like wash house,
So you have, like, a real
bathroom,
bathroom.
flushing toilet, air conditioner in there, that whole kind of thing. But then in addition to that, we also have that big nice pavilion that I showed you with the
Yeah, which is
kitchen and
awesome.
a TV and Wi-Fi and all of
Yeah.
this great stuff. So we've got a really nice place to host people. My goal here, I don't want to do any like big RVs, like massive, like motor buses or whatever, but people like me who are going to be traveling in a vehicle and like sleeping in their vehicle, which that's a new thing that's also coming up, is that I'm taking my Yukon on the road in August, which another big deal for this like little grounded wanderer farm girl that I am to say I like to travel in August. Last year I went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
This year
Well,
I'm jumping in my Yukon.
it's very hot here.
It's
So August is a very good time to leave.
exactly. Well, and none of my vegetables are growing and anything like that. And the expectations of like somebody coming to sleep in their tent and under my mesquite tree like, in August is unreal.
And 102 degrees
Yeah.
when it might even be warmer because we have a very hot June
Yeah,
upon us.
it went from, yeah, it did because we actually had a beautiful spring.
We did. We had like a
Mhm.
northern spring. It
Mhm.
was,
I said that California spring. I
we
kept
did.
telling everybody, I was
We
like,
did.
"Oh, this is nice. I mean, if California's gonna come to Texas and come live in Texas, at least they could bring their weather with them."
I know.
And
And
they
so,
did.
yeah, they did. And you thought that it meant, oh, our summer is going to be mild, but it
No.
wasn't.
No, it
It
just
was
went
like,
from 0 to 60,
it
like,
did. It
overnight.
was like, okay, we're done. 102 degrees.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're
I
at.
quit looking at the weather gauge because I I can't. I
So
just
hot.
like I can't. And the other thing that I find kind of very fascinating about that like concept of like not looking at the weather or anything like that, looking at the temperature gauge or whatever, is that have you noticed that that we as people can find something to complain about every single day,
Oh, yeah.
every
People always can.
every single day, and
Yeah.
social media is fun for that because you
It's
can
like,
watch it.
"Oh my god, it's too cold. Oh, now it's too
Exactly.
hot." It's
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
"It's
It's
hot. You
raining.
live in South
It's dry.
Texas."
The wind's
Yeah,
blowing. There's no wind. Like
I know.
literally and I'm like,
And I
"Mm,
also feel that I don't pay attention to a whole lot of things because I feel like it just jumbles your mind, because I
uh-huh.
also feel like a lot of times I don't feel like it's that hot, and then someone will
Yeah.
be like,
Yes.
"Oh my god, did you know it's 102 today and we have a
That.
heat advisory?" And then I'm like, "Oh, it's so hot.
Yeah,
And prior, I was like, "Oh, just like a normal, like, day in
that.
Texas." And so I agree with that. Like,
That's
just
exactly what I've been figuring out this day. So I'm like,
yeah.
hey, friends that like to live a nice life where they don't like aren't ruined by everything that
Mm,
everyone talks about. Don't look.
don't
Just
look.
don't look at the temperature gauge. Just skip
Yeah.
it because now we
Also,
can
don't
just
look at the news. Don't look at all sorts of things. Be good about it. Check in and then check out.
I've been impressed at how good I've been at like not like to me it's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know things
I don't know things either.
and I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, and people ask me that a lot of times. They're
Yeah.
like, "Do you feel stupid?" Like, is like with my job and the stuff that we do and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Well, I check in enough so that I know of like the big things that are happening.
Yeah.
And if something interests me, I'll go in. But honestly, like, I don't have a problem if somebody's like, "Oh, have you heard about this?" And I'm like, "Nope, I don't pay
Yeah.
attention to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Sorry."
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
just don't care. Like,
Well, with my background being in public relations and media and all that kind of stuff, I remember that back in the day, I used to be like, no, I have to literally watch the news all the time. I have to know everything. I have to get
yeah.
an NPR. I have to know everything. I have to know everything going on. And now I'm like, I'm one of those people. I'm like, absolutely not. I
Yeah,
do
because so
not.
much of it's just a distraction.
It's just a distraction. It's well, maybe I need the distraction too, but well, maybe I'll find funner distractions. So, and then I'm also doing a thing called woofing, which is worldwide organic farming. It's WWOOF, and that is like workers on the farm. So I'm actually, I've got this big open house now, this huge house with all these rooms with a bunch of kids all living in it, and for however many years I had literally a house full of teenagers, and
Yeah.
now I've got bedrooms. So I'm welcoming down, or not down from wherever they come from, all over the world could be, people that want to learn on organic farms to come and stay. And the rules with worldwide organic farming is basically you feed people and you board them. And then they do a certain amount of hours of work for you every
It's
day that they're
awesome.
here,
Yeah.
living at your property or whatever. So I also am signed up on my trip to Michigan to stop in at some hip camp places and some woofing places
Check
so
them
that I
out.
can exactly, and that's how
Yeah.
I like to do it. So, and guaranteed there's going to be some likely a Patreon that's going to start. There's going to be some more like podcast and like content that's going to come out of me from this trip and this idea of more people being on the farm and all of the things like that we're doing. Last thing that's happened here on the farm that's kind of and I actually mentioned it to you, and apparently it's a much bigger deal than I've been willing to admit to, and that is I have chickens that are eating eggs, and I don't have eggs right now because I've got a flock of like, I don't know, 20 or 30 chickens, and one of them is teaching the other ones how to eat the eggs.
It's a problem.
And apparently it's like a thing, like like a nutrient deficiency from one chicken that becomes this like thing. And then that chicken starts doing it and it teaches the other
Other
chickens
chickens
to
to
do
do it.
it. And now they're all doing it. And what's interesting about it that I've noticed in this beginning stages of trying to figure out what's going on with it is that some of the hens are actually trying to hide their eggs. Like they're going and putting their eggs in other places. So I'm finding nests underneath the coop, over in the compost
'Cause they're
area.
not into the egg eating. They're like, "I'm not into this, you guys. I'm
Yeah,
trying to hide my
I'm trying to
eggs."
protect my babies here.
Yeah,
It's interesting. Watching animals is a fascinating thing, and the chickens are always a really
it
interesting
is. Like, what
thing.
makes like, it is interesting, like, what makes those certain ones that are like, "Oh, yeah, I'll get on this train and eat the eggs," and then
Mhm.
those that are like, "Hmm, no,
Yeah, we need to protect our
we need
children.
to protect our children, not into eating my babies,
Yeah,
sorry." Like,
yeah,
like, what makes one chicken from the other? How interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's been
Well, you'll
strange
figure it
initially.
out.
I hope so. I like I said, it's just one more thing on the list of like I mentioned a couple weeks ago that the chickens were eating my tomatoes. So we put aviary netting over the whole coop, which I didn't have to do that for hawks, but I'm flapping my arms around as if people can see my arms, by the
She
way. They
is.
can like
She is.
I'm describing the top of
She's
the coop.
showing you what it looks like right now. She is. She's like, I had to put it on top of the coop and then I had to do this. So I can see it.
So they're not jumping out and eating my tomatoes now. So I've got that problem solved. But now I've got to get the problem of the egg eater solved. And
Yeah.
If I listen to what other people say, I'm about to have to like kill an entire flock of
I
chickens.
don't think you have to do that.
I don't want to listen to other people.
No, I feel like, I mean, if it's a vitamin deficiency, can't we just like put some vitamins or figure out what the deficiency is, fill the
We could.
deficiency?
I probably need to do some more
Yeah,
research.
and then aren't they gonna stop? Like, it reminds me, this is like not the same, but I had a friend once that had a cat that would
Mhm.
bite the heads off of mice. And so she kept finding all these mice outside with like no
Ah.
heads. And she was like,
What's it doing with
this
the
is
heads?
weird,
Yeah.
right? And so she went to the vet and just asked, like, I have my cat keeps doing this. And the vet, I don't remember what it was, but he was like, oh, she's deficient in this. Like,
Ah.
you just, because then she'd like come in with like, mouse pieces in her, like it was gross. Like she was like, I don't want this to keep on. She was deficient in something. So she just started putting like a liquid in her water
Uh-huh.
that got it.
Yeah.
It was like the mouse brain had it.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why she was eating it.
Yeah.
And then she stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And
That
so,
actually makes a lot of sense to me. It makes more sense to me than like bad behavior. They just have bad behavior.
yeah, I
Like
don't think it is. Like, it would
no.
make sense to me that there's a
Yeah.
deficiency and they're like trying to find it. Like, I don't know if it's in the shell, if it's in the whatever it is. And so it's like, if you can just figure that out,
Yeah.
I feel like animals are smart. They're not going to like eat it because, like, you know,
Well, so one of
to
the
be
things that
mean.
we've done over the years with the podcast is I have this thing called unanswered questions. And basically it's like something we've talked about that probably needs a little bit more research. So
Yeah.
I'm going to file chicken
File that. Yes.
deficiency under unanswered
Question.
questions. So next week or within the next couple of weeks, there will be some other guests here at the dinner table that will be hearing about the solutions I've come up to with
Yeah.
solving this chicken
You're going to
problem.
solve it.
Yes,
You'll
of
figure it
course.
out.
So we had a really lovely dinner tonight.
We did.
I enjoyed cooking that meal with you. Before we get into that, I want to talk about a meal that I cooked on my own by myself. I'm cooking several meals a week, but I also, because my schedule is starting to pan out now, it's like I know I'm going to have on Thursday a nice meal, and there's usually going to be
Right.
some leftovers, and then usually I'll cook like on Sunday I'll like make a chicken in the instant pot, and then I
Yeah.
can just do some different things with that. And then if I've got some kind of a cooking event, like next week I have a cooking class again, which, by the way, if you guys want to come out to the cooking class, it's on Tuesday.
Do
It's one of
it.
the food is medicine classes.
Oh,
We're going to talk about the autoimmune protocol diet a little bit, and I've already got some people signed up for it. So
cool.
we did that in my kitchen the last time. If it's a small group, we'll do that again. So if you guys want to come out to that, if you need any information about it, you know how to get a hold of me. You can DM me, you can do all the things, or you can go to my website because it's up there on my website very easily, aislyncampbell.com. I had some wild pork again, some ground wild pork, and I've got lots of beans right now. And one of the beans that I have a ton of right now is Asian long beans. Have you ever eaten those before?
I don't think so.
They're pole beans, so they grow up a trellis
Uh-huh.
and they're like a yard long bean.
Oh my gosh, so they're almost like how like black-eyed peas
Yeah, they're
grow.
exactly like black eyed peas,
Okay.
but they're super long and
Okay.
they have that very same type of consistency. They're meatier and they're a bean that is used in all kinds of Asian dishes. Like probably if you've eaten
Like, I've probably eaten
yes,
them. I just didn't know
yes,
that's what they were called.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. So I had a bunch of those and I looked up a recipe and I found it. And gaising, green beans with pork. And the literal translation of gaising means wake up, because it's a spicy, savory dish.
Mm.
And I just said, okay, let's see what this is. It's simple, it says cooking oil. Of course, I'm using coconut oil or olive oil or avocado oil because I stick with the cleaner oils. And then of course, the onion. You guys know I've got all kinds of beautiful onions from the gardens right now. Ooh, can you guys hear the crop duster?
Yep.
That's not my friend, by the way. I'm not cursing him though, and he's going to be very safe in his little tiny flying machine. And someday we're not going to have sprays over the top of our.
We're like, please stay away from my organic farm.
Exactly. Yes,
Thanks.
exactly. Yeah, I can't tell you the number of people that come and ask me like, "Don't they fly over? And what happens?" And I'm like, "We watch, and if we see anything." But
Wow.
honestly, I'll tell you because we've been out here since 2011, 2012, really. Um, Over the years, my dad has seen overspray.
Wow. Yeah.
And now there's enough people that live out here that anytime that has happened over the years, that they know the farm. Everybody knows the farmers and
Yeah.
they call the farmers.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is they only fly on dead wind days
Good, they're
now.
smart. Well, that's
But
nice.
in the
Yeah.
past, it was not. They were flying by when it was anyway, so
And,
total
we live in a windy
tangent.
place, yeah.
But when I'm like, "There's a plane. Oh, it's loud. That's really a loud plane." Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so the wild pork went in, of course, so we've still got a little bit of that. We're using cloves, plenty of cloves. You can always use lots of garlic clove, not cloves, garlic cloves. And then it called for shrimp paste. I don't just have
Oh,
shrimp
yeah.
paste in my pantry, although I have a lot of weird things in my pantry that
But
normal
not
people
that.
don't have.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the beans. On their thing, it says green beans, Baggio beans, French beans, or whatever. But I noticed that when I did the research for Asian beans, that's what came up with it. And then coconut milk, chili peppers. Yeah. So I've got all these beautiful chili peppers. And that's the thing with the autoimmune protocol diet is that I'm reintroducing beans is a reintroduction,
Right?
and so is nightshades.
Okay,
So
so tomatoes
peppers.
and
Yeah.
peppers,
Hmm.
eggplant, all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm entering all of that stuff into it. And so I made that, and then you add into it some fish sauce, and it was really easy to cook. It was basically a stir fry, and it was kind of creamy, and I would say it had a little bit of a broth, not a thick broth.
And it was good?
It was great. And it was spicy. So that was the
Mhm.
thing that I thought, was like unexpected. And then if you think about the coconut milk with the fish sauce, it's kind of got this like
Yeah.
tangy, like creamy. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I ate it for 3 days. I'm a leftover eater. Do you eat leftovers?
I am a leftover eater.
Yeah.
The rest of my family is not,
Uh huh.
which is annoying. I
Yeah.
don't usually use that kind of word, but it's annoying
Yeah.
because they're like, I mean, even my husband, when you talked about like making a chicken and then you'll make stuff with it,
Uh huh.
like, I'll make a chicken and then if I use it like later in the week, he's like, "Is this repurposed chicken?"
Yeah. Uh
And I'm
huh.
like, "Yeah,
Uh huh.
it is. It's just as good if I would have made new chicken." But yeah, I'm a definitely leftover eater. I will eat things for days if
Well,
it's
when
good.
you this is one of the things that we've always talked about at the dinner table is when you buy, meat from the farmer's market that's super expensive
Yeah.
and you're buying the freshest vegetables and you're cooking at home, it just
Yeah,
starts
I
to get
think
to where it's
a
like too
well, and
much.
I think a lot of it too is like I'm the meal preparer. So
Mhm.
it's like if I can cook something and everybody eats it for lunch the next day and then dinner
Exactly.
for 2 more days, like bonus.
Mhm.
Where if you're not the dinner preparer, you're kind of like, "Well, where's the new thing?"
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to do the new thing."
right. Where's the new thing? Yeah, so that's basically what I've been doing over the weeks is kind of just like making stuff and then kind of letting it last. And then a chicken's a great example because a chicken is going to get
Oh,
repurposed and
yeah.
I'm going to make chicken salad or I'm going to put it in my
Sure.
chicken wraps for lunch for a couple of days.
Put it in chicken noodle soup. I do
All the
all the
things.
things with the chicken.
Yeah. As a
Make
matter of
make the
fact,
bone broth once
exactly.
it's done.
Yeah. I've even
Mhm.
gotten to the point where like I had a bunch of bone broth and I didn't have any containers to put in it. And so I just took the bone broth, threw carrots and potatoes, and had like vegetable soup bone broth. Like it didn't even have any chicken in it. It
Yeah.
just had the bone broth with the chicken in it. So then tonight we took my brother is a fisherman. I mentioned that to you. And he had just him and his son Jack had just caught a bunch of drum, like a huge
Yeah.
amount of black drum. And so we had gone over there for Father's Day and they had fried a bunch of fish. And he knows kind of that my life has changed and I'm dealing with things a little bit differently. I'm like, hey, buddy, you got any of that shrimp to send? You got any of that fish to send home with your sister? And he's like, of course I do. And he's telling me like, okay, you got to cut the thing and you got to pull the bone out and and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm smart. I can handle
I
this.
can do this.
And I get home tonight and so that's one of the things that I did before you got here because I didn't want to like be all like stupidly not knowing what I was doing.
I wouldn't have cared.
And so, but then either way, I'm paranoid about the bones. So I'm like, can you be careful with the bones? And of course, guess what? I've got
She
like
had all the
20
bones.
bones on my
I
plate.
had none.
Perfect.
Not a one. And I ate all my food.
All of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was a really simple, and they actually called it the Provencal. Is that how you pronounce that? Have you ever heard that word before?
No.
Provencal.
Oh,
Provencal.
yeah, like herbs de Provençal.
That. Yeah. Yeah. No.
French.
Yeah.
Nice little French dish.
Baked fish with roasted potatoes and mushrooms. And of course, it's got the potatoes. Potato is a reintroduction because it's a nightshade. So that's one
Mm.
of the things I'm reintroducing as well. And we used my potatoes here from the farm. Purple potatoes,
Yeah.
red potatoes, white potatoes, all these beautiful potatoes. And then the drum that was on top of that. And then I grabbed some of the, here's an interesting thing. Did you know now that HEB labels their Texas stuff, Texas roots? And so and then it'll actually tell you where in Texas. So there's a lot of vegetables in HEB now that are from
I
Texas.
have been noticing that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of even some of their, more, like, canned products and stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, like, "Made in Texas,"
Mm-hmm.
"Grown in Texas."
Yeah.
Yes, I have noticed that.
It's exciting. Like
Yeah.
that's and it was funny because it was an interesting conversation at, I don't know, wherever I was the other day, where people were talking about things that basically they were saying that, like, because over enough years now, people ask HEB for what they want and HEB's
HEB
responsive.
gets it
They do.
every time. I've done that before where
Uh-huh.
I've been like, "I need this," and
Uh-huh.
they're like, "Okay, it might take us a moment, but, like, we'll get it," and they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And that's why that's why I think they've become already the greatest H store in the whole country. Like I
I
think
think
they're labeled.
HEB is like, I
Yeah.
always say, like, I could leave Texas, like, I could, like, I like it, but,
Yeah.
I'm from the North,
Yeah.
and I always say I'd miss HEB the most
Yeah.
because I love that store, like, I
It's
do.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a great job. And so I've been really impressed with, like, the reason I brought that up is because the mushrooms is their organic mushrooms are, and you'll notice that it actually has, you guys, it has a label on it now. It's called Texas Roots. And you will also notice that a lot of times you'll see coupons hanging all around that are like, if you buy this many dollars worth of Texas Roots vegetables,
Yeah.
then you'll get like a discount. And so keep an eye out for that kind of thing. But the mushrooms they're Texas mushrooms growing
Texas
in Texas
mushrooms,
mushrooms.
yeah.
And I love that so much because in 2012, I did a TEDx talk called something about creating a revolution in your hometown. I don't remember what
Yeah.
the exact title was. But one of the things I said right off the bat was stop eating strawberries that are not organic. And if you don't have organic strawberries in your grocery store or local strawberries in your grocery store, tell your grocery store because it will never change unless we start
Yeah.
telling people what we want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 11 years later, we're getting what we want
Yeah.
because we tell people what we want. And that's really nice. So, what did you think about the dinner tonight? What did
I
you think
loved it,
about
like, I
the?
thought it was great, like I told you when we were eating, well, I had no bones, so that was wonderful.
Yes.
I think we, figured out it was the oregano,
Yeah. So I
but
used all fresh vegetables. I mean,
or all
fresh
fresh
herbs.
herbs.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like a on and off person with oregano. Sometimes oregano tastes really good to me, and sometimes it tastes really floral
Uh huh.
to me. And so it wasn't in every bite, but there were a few bites where I was like, "Whoa, this tastes like very floral." And
Yeah.
I think that was
It had lavender, sage, oregano, and thyme all
yeah,
in it. And I looked at what is Provencal. I looked at that to see what they're using, and they said like oregano, rosemary, lavender. I don't remember if they had thyme and sage or not,
yeah,
but I was like, well, I'm just going to make fresh herbs with my own
yeah.
herbs, and that's where we'll get our stuff from. So I honestly I think that the vegetables with the herbs and the potatoes and the mushroom and all of
The
that was really
potatoes and mushroom
tasty.
were so good, and that
Yeah.
salad was very good too.
Well, that salad, yeah, that's the award-winning fig salad that we've been having week after week after week,
Yeah.
and it had the honey from the back,
Yes.
the beehive, and the red wine vinegar that we talked about a few weeks ago that my dad's making with the grapes. You drank the wine
Yeah,
too.
I drank the
What'd you
wine.
think?
I thought the wine was okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good.
I'm a wine person, and
Yeah.
so it's definitely a new wine,
Yeah.
I mean, it has that very new kind of a
Uh-huh.
little more fruity,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
taste to it. I mean, I drank it, like, I wasn't like, "Oh gosh,
Yeah.
can't drink this." Like,
Yeah.
it was good.
It is a little sweet. I completely
I'm
agree with that.
more of
Yeah.
a
Super dry.
older.
It wasn't the best dinner we've had in the last couple of weeks, but it was really different and fresh
Yeah.
and delicious. And I really liked it. And I loved having the potatoes. And clearly, potatoes has become one of the things. Potatoes, green beans, tomatoes, peppers, all have been reintroduced to me now. And I don't seem to be having any issues
Well,
with
good.
any of that kind of stuff. So I'm really paying a lot of attention to when it comes to reintroduction. I'm paying a lot of attention to my skin, my
Yeah.
joints.
Yeah.
my mind clarity, how
Yeah.
clear my mind stays and stuff like that. So, but I'm enjoying all the different foods that we're eating. It's really good. So
Good. Yeah.
thank
I
you for
enjoyed
joining.
it.
And thank you
Thank
for cooking,
Oh, you're welcome.
cutting the potatoes and cutting the garlic, and with her fancy Taylor Swift nails, by the way,
Yeah.
I made her cut the garlic.
Like long, long, crazy glittery nails right now because I was at Taylor Swift this past weekend.
That's fun. I
It
love
was
that.
fun.
How was Taylor Swift?
She was amazing.
Good.
She did not disappoint.
I love it. So whenever I started making my list after going, okay, the format of the podcast is going to change and I'm going to start bringing people to the dinner table. And I kind of started like going through my list and thinking like, oh, who would be interesting people? And of course you mentioned like, oh, you should bring some chefs. And I was like, oh, I got chefs,
Got that.
girl. I
Got
got
that.
chefs, I thought about you and I thought, well, first of all, you're going to be easy to bring on a podcast because your profession is talking. So,
Yeah.
so
Talk a
that
lot.
part won't be hard.
Hmm.
But then I also thought, with the timing of everything, that it might be really interesting to just, hear what you have to say at the dinner table. And you and I, like, we're both from Corpus Christi, but we didn't really meet. I mean, I feel like it's possible we crossed paths because
Yeah,
we're the
I'm
two
sure we
type of
did.
like
Yeah.
networking people that cross
Yeah.
paths. But we didn't really cross paths until I came across your coaching services online during the
Right.
pandemic,
Right.
like
Yeah.
right at the beginning of the pandemic. And the main reason for me, and it's still carrying through, was the idea that I have issues with worth and money and making money. And I'm one of those types of people that can make anything in the world happen, but I've never made a lot of money. Like I've never
Yeah.
had a big salary. I've never had
Right.
I've never, my money often came from other people.
Yeah.
And one of the things you've actually taught me over the years is like, what difference does it make if it's your money or somebody else's money?
Correct.
Like,
And not only that, but I think a lot of people don't realize too is that, I mean, for pretty much since humans created money,
uh-huh.
a very small percentage of people have ever gotten to have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very, very new to us as humans to all of a sudden have opportunities because prior you didn't have opportunities. It was like the
Mm-hmm.
money stayed with the people who had the money. It was
Mm-hmm.
generationally passed down, period, end of story. The rest of the people worked and they died.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of in this new state where there's all these opportunities
Oh,
and
I have
kind of like
ridiculous amount of
well,
opportunities.
exactly. And like, classism is starting to fall away and racism is starting to fall away and all these different things that used to keep people in their boxes is starting to fall away, at least in more of the modernized, westernized countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it still exists, like we know that. But all of a sudden now women couldn't even have a bank account until gosh, the
Mm-hmm.
70s almost. You couldn't even have a credit card until barely the 70s or the 80s without a man signing on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we often sit here and think like, "Oh my god, what's my problem? Why
Mm-hmm.
can't I just?"
Yeah.
And I think we have to sometimes take a step back and be like, "Wait a second. Like this is really new to my human. This is
Mm-hmm.
really new to a woman, to a person maybe that has an entire ancestry of working,
Mm-hmm.
working, 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 never being able to acquire wealth."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, of course, there's going to be a lot of stuff you're going to have to look at and explore and overcome and heal so that now your person in this life is like, I can do this. Bring in the money. It's time.
Yeah. And so what the timing of it was this, I left Grow Local South Texas in 2019. I call it retired, but really I transitioned back into a corporate marketing in the healthcare industry job because I wanted to make good money. I wanted to make a bunch of money all of a sudden. And I did that right at the beginning of the pandemic. I didn't know it was right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
And then immediately decided that A, the company that I had signed up to work for was a bunch of crazy people. And B, it was in the middle of a pandemic and shit was crazy. And
Yeah.
so I quit my job. So now
Yeah.
I didn't have the little bit of income that I was making from Grow Local. And I also didn't have the big corporate money that I was making. And
The
I
be-
was in the position.
the best laid plans.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, good Lord. If you had, I guess you do know a little bit of it now at this point. But yeah, everything best laid plans. And so I came out of that, but my intentions really were I was ready to be independent with my own money. That was
Yeah.
part of the reason why I took the corporate job, was because
Yeah.
I was ready to be independent with my own money. And now I was in the middle of a pandemic without a job at all
Yeah.
and wanting to start a business, or really wanting to strengthen my business of what I really needed to be doing to begin with from all the beginning of it, and didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And just looked at my life and I was like, the one block I don't have issues with finding partners. I don't have issues with creating anything I want, beautiful houses, and I'm a beautiful woman, and I'm take care of my body, and my health is
Yeah.
good. So all the things a lot of other people might be constantly trying to manifest, like,
You did it. You're like, check, check, check.
mine was the
Where's
money.
the money?
Mine was the money block. And so when I would hear you talking about money blocks and those
Yeah.
kinds of things, I wanted to talk to you about that. And I wanted to like be involved in the coaching and things that you're doing about that. And so I followed you specifically about that stuff to try to work that stuff out. But I found it really interesting because I was one of the people that got involved in kind of following a life coach, or not just one life coach. I actually like followed some other people too,
Right.
some people that you kind of connected us with,
Yeah.
other people. And I found it really interesting what happened with life coaching during the pandemic, and like how, like
Yeah. It
there
really
was just this
exploded.
rise, a
Yeah.
crazy rise. What was your thoughts about the whole, what was going on?
Well, I think a few things happened. One, I think you had a lot of bored people, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people were stuck at home,
Mm-hmm.
not doing a whole lot, and they took to the internet,
Yep.
right? So that happened. I think we had an influx of money for a lot of people, right?
Yes.
So the government was like,
Like almost
oh,
like play money. Like, oh,
let me
let's
just
just
throw you some money,
yeah.
right? So you just
Yeah.
had this extra money coming at you. So that happened.
Uh-huh.
And then I think a lot of people were forced to look at their lives.
Yes.
So I always say it was kind of like, and I honestly think we should have done a little bit more of it, but I feel like a lot of the pandemic was almost like the universe being like,
Yes.
y'all go to your room
Yeah.
and you sit there and you think about what you've done,
Uh-huh.
and like when you've done that, we'll let you come out.
Well, and I don't even think that many people really sit there and look at what they've
And that's what I was gonna
done.
say. I think we could have done a better job at it.
Yeah.
I really think we could have done a better job at it, but I do think that there was a group of a decent chunk of people that all of a sudden had a lot of issues. Like it was like, oh my God, like now I can't distract myself with going out with my friends. Now I can't distract myself with this constant busyness. And like my kids are
Mhm.
driving me crazy and my spouse, I'm gonna strangle him. And oh my God. And it was like, okay, where do I go to like, and it's just like they go to the internet to start looking for this.
Mhm.
And there's all these people now that they're like, oh my God, oh, how to make this happen. Oh, how to do this. Oh. And
Mhm.
so they started paying attention
Mhm.
because it was there and they were bored and then they had the money. And so it was like, ooh,
Yeah.
let's see how this goes.
So did so to me it looked like not just you and other people, but it looked like it was happening with a lot. Like all of a sudden it was just like everywhere, and money was moving really fast. Did it maintain? Did it sustain?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's always been like that in
Mhm.
the coaching world, really. I mean, I think there was a boom to some degree,
Mhm.
but, and this was part of kind of why we changed our business model. A lot of the personal development coaching world is really in a hype marketing kind of
Mhm.
dopamine inducing
Mhm.
marketing.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's always been a place where we kind of just hook people in real fast and like, tell them they need all this. It's very much based on like a break you model. Our business never was, but a lot of them are where it's
Mhm.
like, I'm going to get you in here and then I'm going to show you that like you can't do it without all the rest of my stuff.
Yeah.
And so you got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And so it's always been a fast money industry. It really has. I think there was definitely a spike during 2020. I think it maintained for some of us, but I think a lot of people
Dropped off. Yeah.
came crashing down afterwards. I think that there's been a lot of, I'm one of the ones that talk about a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about now, the dopamine, the hype
Mhm.
marketing, the kind of the stuff that's just I don't think we should be doing
Mhm.
anymore. And so I think there was a lot of those of us who had made millions and millions doing it now turning around and saying, wait a second, I don't know. And like once you start to shine light on this, people start to see it and they're like, oh my God. And so then they don't buy like
Mhm.
they were. And I think you also had a lot of people that ran out of money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh my god, I have invested all this money in this," and, like, it worked and it was great, but, like, I'm out of money.
Yeah.
And, like, needed a
Mhm.
moment to,
Mhm.
like, catch up. It was one of the reasons, I see this as we go into the future. We really changed our entire business to go to a membership model and have it be more accessible to
Mhm.
people, because I really see, as we continue to go as humans, that people aren't gonna wanna spend the money they were spending on personal development. People aren't gonna be like, "No, I'm not gonna pay you $5,000 to talk to you once a week, like, get out of here."
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's been interesting, because I'm a person that often really sees, like, where the world's going.
Yeah.
And so we really kind of are one of the first to kind of create what we've created, like, kind of like a membership model where
Mhm.
all of our and I remember my husband, I remember telling him I was gonna do this, and he's like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. You're charging thousands of dollars for each one of these programs, and people are paying it. And
Mhm.
now you're going to take all of them and put them in one place and charge like 80 or $90 a month?"
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's the worst business idea ever." And I was like, I can see where like, short term,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
but long term, no,
Yeah.
because, like, this is sustainable and this is scalable to the millions.
Uh-huh.
It's
And
kind of like
steady. It's a
it is.
commitment.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like what Walmart did back in the day, where, Sam Walmart said, like, "I want more people to have access to stuff. I'm going to lower my prices." And everybody was like, "Wow, you're never going to make money. Good
Uh-huh.
luck, dude."
Uh-huh.
It's what Netflix did. And, like, they came and Netflix came to Blockbuster at one point and was like, "Will you buy us for $1 million?" And Blockbuster laughed them out of the
Right.
room.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, Blockbuster was out of business and Netflix was $1 billion company.
Yep.
So I see where this industry is going. And this industry, a lot of people need help. A lot of
Yeah.
people need access to the knowledge and the understanding. And right now, it is a very exclusive, privileged place.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it's like, we have to change that. If our goal is to really shift humanity, if our goal is to really help people heal and help people, get over their trauma, we can't do it the way we're doing it. We can't charge thousands of dollars. We can't even charge $125 per therapy session. Like that, that is
Yeah.
not accessible to 98% of the globe.
Right.
And so, I'm really proud of what we've kind of done, and as we've gone through the pandemic and shifted. And we also change our pricing too based on countries. Like, we try to do it, like, we have people from, like, Turkey that are like, $85 a month is like what I pay for my rent.
Yeah.
And so we're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, then what's comparable to you?" And they're like,
Right.
$10 US. And we're like, "Fine, come on in."
Yeah.
And so, I think there was this huge boom, and it was cool to be a part of it. But I think the future is going to be even cooler in this industry as we start to really get the people who need it the most this work.
How do you process some of these same types of things that I'm talking to you about like when you make a major shift and things are like different and you can foresee. I think the thing that happens with people like us that can see the future basically,
Yeah,
um, is that we make shifts faster than the rest of the world
100%
makes
we do.
them.
Yeah.
How do you process your own personal worth with why people aren't, because you said something to me earlier the night where you said, um, all these people said they wanted this thing. And I'm like,
Right.
girl, that's the story of my life with
And then
like Grow
they
Local and the farmers markets and
yeah.
vegetables. And everybody wants a garden. Everybody wants vegetables.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a good farmer's market. I get all the things going. I set up the classes. I do all the things you want me to do. And then nobody shows up.
Yeah.
How do you
Right. So
process that feeling?
So part of it is, I mean, it's what I teach. You got to feel the emotion, then you got to put the good stuff in. You got to learn to love yourself despite whatever's happening in your outside world. It doesn't matter. It's all just, whatever it is. But what I've really learned is I I stopped listening to what people wanted. I stopped
Yeah.
listening to what people wanted, and I started to really ask myself, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
How do I want to contribute to the world?
Yeah.
What feels good to me? What makes me happy? What brings me joy? And whenever I do that, everything always works out. It's
Yeah.
when I start listening to the people. It's when I start really losing confidence in myself
Yeah.
and trying to listen to what they want and give them what they want, and it doesn't work. And then it usually, I process it the way I teach to process it. You will find me crying on the floor.
Mhm.
Right? Why didn't this work? Why
Mhm.
didn't this work? And I'll get all the ick out, all the old stuff out, and then I'll pick myself up and dry my tears and remind myself that I'm awesome and remind my body that it's safe to go after my dreams. And then I'll stop listening to people tell me what they think I should do, and I'll start doing what I know I should do.
Yeah, I think that generally speaking, there's just a lot of healing, which
Sure.
actually one of the courses that I took with you that I loved the most was called Heal.
Yep.
And I think that there's generally a lot more healing that has to occur,
Yeah.
that is all from like ancestral stuff that we've talked about,
Sure.
but then also like in these recent years, like new traumas and pandemic traumas and the
Yeah.
grief of, the things that we're dealing with. And so I think that I'm very grateful for the support and help that I have gotten from coaches like you
Well,
and
good. I'm
other people
glad.
in this
Yeah.
community. And I was always really in love with the idea that you and I were both in Corpus
I
Christi.
was too. I'm like, yay, I have somebody in Corpus Christi.
Yeah, I just thought that that was fun. And it always feels like I always look at the world where I see some of my favorite like speakers, because I
Mhm.
follow all kinds of people,
Right.
Abraham Hicks and Marianne Williamson. And when I find out where they are, like, I don't know if you know this, but there's this really amazing meditation, like uh, Buddhist type temple thing in Dallas, like one of the best ones in the world is in
Oh.
Dallas. And then you've got Abraham Hicks in San Antonio.
Oh,
And then I'm all
wow.
like Sara Longoria is in Corpus
Right
Christi.
here.
So I always think about like I see people like us in the world as like lighthouses.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a reason why we're in Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily what we might think of like, oh, we're going to just like convince this whole Corpus Christi to change. No, it's really just more about like we're like these little light bulbs all across the
Yeah.
world. And if you could see it from God's view, it looks very different in these
Yeah.
like light bulbs all across the world. And we're in the places that we're in. I mean, even if you look at like our astrological signs of being born, where we were
Born,
born,
yeah.
and what our like goals and skills and talents are, it has everything to do with like why we were born in this area. And so I've found that really fascinating that both of us are here. And so I want you now to tell everybody how do other people find you? I found you, but how do other people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me online. The majority of our business is virtual. So, obviously, Facebook, Sara Longoria, Instagram, I am Sara Longoria. We have a YouTube channel that has a ton of free content
Mm-hmm.
called How to Be a Happy Human.
Yay.
We also have our website, Hey You Human, with a U, not the
Mm-hmm.
word you, but heyyouhuman.com. Lots of fun stuff on there. And we also have our own app as well. So you can go to the App Store and go to Hey You Human and download that. We have a free membership on there and a paid membership on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, lots of places. We also have a podcast,
Yes.
the
Uh-huh.
Happy Human podcast.
Where can we hear that? On any of the
Yep,
podcast
that's on all
platforms?
the places,
Uh-huh.
all the places. So yeah,
I go over, not every Wednesday, but as often as I can. It kind of depends on what's happening with the weather in my garden, but I listen to you on Wednesdays on YouTube. You do live on
yeah.
Wednesdays, right?
Yeah, we've actually paused that for a moment.
Okay.
But there's a lot on there. Like our YouTube channel just has all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff
Yeah.
on there, and we'll get back on there live. We're just trying to kind of re-envision what we want with that.
I remember listening to you a couple weeks ago and something you said, I was like, yeah, that's me. That's me. And it was about your son. You were talking about how he takes baths and showers when he doesn't feel well.
Yes.
I'm exactly that same way.
Like
And so,
y'all, like we will get like to where he's like 3 baths a
uh-huh.
day, 4 showers. Like if he has like a cold or something,
Yeah.
and he'll wake up in the middle of the night, like, can I take a shower? And I'm like, can you make it till morning? He's like, I cannot.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I'm that person.
Yeah.
I've always been that person. And then I was curious about what his sign was, and you said he was an Aries, and I was like, I bet it has something to do with
The fire
the
signs,
fire
it
sign
makes
needs the
sense.
waters, like we need the water to like calm us down and cool us
Yeah.
down and all of that. I actually went from red to purple in my hair
Mhm.
um when my fire got so like out of control in the last couple of years that I just like, but then everybody was like, no, you're fire, you're
You're
red,
fire.
you
Put
you
that red
should
back.
go back to red. But like trying to cool my fire down, my
Yeah.
sacral fire, like
Yeah.
masculine, like try to cool it down sometimes. So I think that's I mean, I was talking to a friend the other day. He was like something about water conservation or whatever. And he's like super, super strict, like off the grid, like conservation, like everything he does is like, I can't even
He would
compete with this
not
guy.
approve of my son
Like, like
and his
that's what I
healing
told
and
him.
his water healing
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah, I go, listen, I couldn't live on this planet. Like, actually, what I told him was my greatest fear in life is losing the luxury of a warm bath. Like,
Yeah.
when I think about like, oh my God, what would what would I do without a hot bath? Like, like
Yeah.
that's my luxury. So I'm not a very good conservationist when it comes to water and bath water.
My household is definitely not like I'm more of the person that sits there and thinks, okay, I don't actually want to change how I live. I just want to figure out how we fix the problem that occurs from how I live.
Yes.
Right? Like, I don't want to use less water. I
Yeah.
don't want to stop using my single use plastic.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop flying in a plane and driving my car. How can we just make these things work so that they're kill-
Causing, yeah.
not killing us, not causing, like these terrible things to the planet? Like, I'm pretty sure we're smart enough to figure that out, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
Stop trying to hold me back and
Yeah.
just fix the problem.
We
Okay?
are. We are.
Yeah.
I was recently listening to a book called Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. I want to talk about that on a future, like probably Patreon podcast. And he was talking about the thing about all of that stuff is that you have to inspire people to
Yeah.
what is it that actually changes the way you behave. And it can't just be like telling people, oh, we're going to ban bags, or we're going to,
No, you can't
or you like,
shame them into it. That
that
doesn't
doesn't work.
work.
It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
that
It's got to
doesn't
be,
work.
I'm inspired by. So that's it. I mean, I actually think that is what we are doing that actually
Yeah.
is beneficial. And that is inspiring people to do things differently,
Well, and
whatever works for you.
I think every problem, we already know the solution to it. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the people that are holding these solutions, they don't know who they are. They're
Mm-hmm.
not, they haven't done the work yet. And so it's like, I think just inspiring people to just become who they're meant to be
Yeah.
is also such an important part of this, because I think that all the solutions are here.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to find the people and inspire those people that are meant to do it. I always think of Henry Ford, who now you think of like the car is the problem, but when he wanted to create his motor, he locked those engineers in a room and told them, don't come out until you create this motor I want. And they kept coming out for years. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible. He just kept sending them back in, went bankrupt almost twice doing it, just kept sending them back into the room and saying, no, it's possible. And eventually they came out and said, here you go.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we just need more of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
We just need more of that energy of like, no, you guys, everything we want is possible.
Everything.
Stop settling.
Yeah.
Stop trying to calibrate down and think we don't get to have all the good stuff. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get to be that good for us, and start believing, no, it does.
In fact, it already
Does.
is.
It already is.
Yeah.
And it only gets to
Yeah.
be better.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, guys. Like, everybody take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get through this. It's not that bad. Like,
Thank you. I needed to hear that today. Take a deep
yes.
breath.
Take a deep breath. It's not that
It's not that
bad. You've
bad.
done harder things. Humanity has been through harder things.
Yeah.
We're going to be okay.
I have done harder
You have
things.
done harder
I
things.
have done harder things. Okay, so we do that random question, the table topics.
Okay,
it's
but
not like we needed something extra to talk about. But
no. But let me tell you what just happened.
yes, tell us.
So we're sitting here and she has these two little bins of cards. And one of
Uh-huh.
them's just like sitting there open and she's looking through it. And then there's a little cube next to it with cards in it that
Uh-huh.
says, do not use on show.
Yeah.
And I said, what are the do not use on show cards? She goes, I don't know. I didn't put them in there. And I said, pick a card from there.
So we're doing a do not use on show.
So,
I don't know who made these fucking rules, but we're not
but
following
we're
them.
breaking up. We're breaking
We're
up.
not following them. They're not for us. Okay, so are you ready for this?
Ready?
How are you different from everyone else? That's what
I mean, I would say the main way I'm different than everybody else is that I truly believe in the limitless potential of humanity.
yeah.
And so, I'll give you an example because I've passed this on to my kids. So my daughter has a cold right now,
Mhm.
and she wanted Chick-fil-A for lunch, and I said, "Baby, you're getting over this cold. I don't think Chick-fil-A is the smart choice." And she said, "Why?" And I said,
Mhm.
"Well, it doesn't help our bodies get healthy." She goes, "It helps my body get healthy." And
Yeah.
I said, "Well, no, honey, in general, it doesn't help humans get healthy." And she goes, "Well, maybe my body's not human like I mean,
Yeah.
that is very much how I
She's
roll.
a Sagittarius.
Yeah,
You told me that.
yes, but it's very much how I roll too. Is
Yeah.
like, people always want to limit us. People always want to say you have to fit into this box.
Mhm.
People always want to say like it can't be that way.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm always like, but why?
Yeah.
Who decided that?
Who got to make
Who
that
made
rule?
up that rule? Like
Yeah.
we get to do what we want, how we want. Like that is and too many people have not been told that, including myself. Like I didn't believe this for my whole life.
Mhm.
But so many people have never been told that. Some people have been told, of course, you can't do that. You're going to be this for the rest of your life. Like, knock off those dreams.
Yeah.
And so, I would say one of the biggest ways that I'm different is like, I am always trying to figure out how I can break
To
the
the impossible.
break the limits of
Yeah.
this world. I mean, like when I saw you growing grapes in South Texas, I was
Yes.
like, "You're growing grapes in South
Yes.
Texas?" And she was like, "I am." And I was like, "I love seeing people do things I never thought was possible."
Yep. 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 I think I would say that that's definitely like I'm a rule breaker, period.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm a rule breaker is because
Because who made these stupid rules anyways?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm funny where it's like if I follow a rule, it's because to me the rule makes perfect
Yeah, it
sense.
does, yeah.
But if I break the rule, which is most of the rules, that's the case. But I will tell you that this is one thing I've figured out about myself at this age, and that is I was born believing that I had it in me to change the world.
Yeah.
And so every day I wake up trying to change the world, which makes me feel like a failure a lot of times because I'm like, who made you think you were special enough to freaking change the world? But at the same time, the world has already been changed just because I was born and
Yeah,
exist. That's
all
it.
of us,
Just
yeah.
period. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's this like thing that I have literally held on to, which I don't know. I don't know that it makes me different. It makes me think different.
Yeah, I
That's what it
agree.
does. It just makes me think different. And so I get up every day thinking about, well, what can I do different?
Yeah,
And how can I be different?
right,
And
yeah.
so I think about being a different kind of person, which means that if, how do we change the things we don't like? We inspire people.
Mhm.
We do things differently. And the
Yeah,
way that we do things differently in a way that is loving and kind and compassionate and inspiring inspires people. And so I think that that's what makes people like us have the ability to inspire people to join us and come along and
yeah.
learn from
Well,
us.
because I
And
think we believe.
yeah,
Like, I believe in humanity. I believe in the good.
yeah,
I am someone that no matter how shit it gets, I
yes,
find that good nugget in there
yep,
and know that it's going to like it's here for us. Like it's
hmm,
not a random act. It's here for us and it's good in its own way, even though it seems really right
yeah,
now, you're gonna look back and be like, oh well, yeah, that was good.
yeah,
Even if it still isn't good in necessarily how we think about things as humans. Like you look at a pandemic and you think, well, that wasn't good, but I don't know. There was a lot of
yeah,
good that came out of that. There's a lot
yeah,
of things that I believe that year has set into motion
yep.
that we are going to see come out decades from now because of that moment back there.
Yeah, truly. I agree. I 100% and I talk about that on a regular basis is that like so much good came out of that. Grief, but there's a lot of grief. But the thing about it is that we deal with grief.
Yeah.
Like I'm dealing with grief right now.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can I think that it's a part of life. And so we deal with grief, but then what were the opportunities that came out of the grief,
Yeah.
and that's what makes us the amazing next phase of humanity. Thank you so much for being here with
Thank
me
you.
tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your, I know, so busy schedule
Not
and
busy.
coming and having a delicious
I
cooking.
always say I'm
You
not
wore
that
your
busy.
apron.
I did wear my apron.
You're amazing. I'm so grateful for you being
Mhm.
here. And I'm also so grateful for all of you friends that show up at the dinner table every week to hear what's going on at the dinner table and who's at the dinner table this week. And I would love it if you guys would go over to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on YouTube, just click that subscribe button. If you're listening to this on a general podcast, wherever you might listen into podcasts, and you have an interest in YouTube, know that you can also listen to me on YouTube and subscribe over there as well. And then, of course, you also know that if you go to dinnertabletalks.com, which is where the show notes are, you'll get the recipes and all of the things that are information about Sara, all the things that are up there on there. But as well, you'll see at the top, it says support the podcast. Click the support the podcast button and throw a couple bucks my way because it keeps me in business and keeps
Keeps
me
the
doing
farm alive,
it. Totally
friends.
keeps the farm alive. Thank you guys.